Why hello peeps and welcome to Matt's Life. Today I thought I'd get into my motorcycle history, what bikes I've had over the last 20 years I'd say. I did want to get out on the bike, but unfortunately it's forecast snow and rain, and at the moment it's really foggy, so forget that idea. So let's go back to when I first started riding. I had first bought myself a TZR 125. It was a bit of a shed. It had a bird's nest wiring harness. It was a mess, and so my friend thought he could fix it, chopped out wiring and knackered the bike, but luckily enough it only cost me a few £100, so that weren't no big loss. Then I went out and I bought myself the Aprilia RS 125 two-stroke. And that thing looked like a 200 to me, a 600 back in there. It was a big bike for a 125. And it was nippy. I remember me and my friend, we used to race, he had a Cagiva Meteor 125. And we used to race now and again on the back road where it was quiet. Bit of fun, to be fair. And what you do when you're young and stupid, eh? So, after that, I'd bought myself a RGV 250 Lucky Strike, and if you look nowadays, I think they're going for about £8,000 to £10,000 upwards, and I'd sold that bike for £500 in a crate of beer because I had a bit of a drinking habit at the time. So then after that there was a big gap, about 13-year gap in my riding, and I'd sold that RGV due to me not having a license, so I thought it's best to get it sold than to get into trouble. So after about 13 years of not riding, I'd moved back from Germany back to the UK, and I'd bought myself a Sinis SC 125. And I'd kept that bike for a good couple of years. And do you know what? Chinese bike, I know, I've heard it all before. What a heap of trash, right? No, wrong actually. I loved it. That little thing went through 2 winters, through some of the worst weather you could ever believe. And do you know what? It never let me down, ever. And the only reason I gave it away to a friend of mine was because I wanted the Honda Varadero 125. Another bike what looked big, a nice twin. Sounded great, had a custom exhaust on it. Top box on back, good 8 for commuting, because I ride all year round. So commuting was awesome on it. Nice big bike feel, road presence, which is what you want. And then I went to do my test, and I passed that first time, and my friend gave me a 1994 Suzuki GSX 750F. And not to sound ungrateful, but that thing was a shed. I took it to some high speeds, metal parts started falling off it. It had starting issues, but he gave me it for doing my test, for passing my test. So I was grateful for that, but I was also I didn't really want to die, so I ended up giving it back and to him, and I went and bought myself a Triumph Tiger 800 with the big spoke wheels. It had a full pannier set on it, and I'd put a Pugue screen on it and a Scott Euler centre stand, put sat nav on it, and I only had that a few months, but I had it for commuting to work because I was commuting 150 miles a day throughout the worst months, so January, February, March, snow, ice, fog, rain, gale force winds, Hurricane Doris. Yeah, so I put it through its paces, and after a few months I changed jobs to somewhere a bit closer, and I found the bike quite top heavy. Even though the triple engine was awesome and it was beautiful to ride, for the short commute I just found it a bit top heavy. And I always liked the retro bikes, so I ended up going out and I traded that in for a Triumph Scrambler 900, the 865. And I'll tell you something, I loved that bike. I didn't do much with it. I changed the seat to a brown leather seat, and I put on the some off-road tire, well 50/50 tires, and it looked pretty smart, to be fair. I loved it. Had that for 2.5 years, and the only reason I sold it was my friends called it a pig. Or should I say my mate Steve. The brakes are a bit wooden. Brakes were a bit wooden and a bit heavy for what it was. But do you know what? I loved it. And that is my biggest regret, was selling that at 2.5 years. So I must have loved it. While I had that, I went out and bought a Honda VFR 800 VTEC. And that bike was another nice bike. It was easy to ride. You hit 7,000 revs and the VTEC kicks in, and it was like a slingshot. And the only reason I got rid of the VFR was my mate passed his test. He wanted a cheap bike, so I sold him that so he could ride with us. So that was the only reason I got rid of that bike. The Scrambler, I traded that in for the Yamaha Tracer 900. I had that a year, but I remember when I bought that bike, I was always umming and ahhing about it. Triple engine, which I knew I liked the triple because I had obviously the Triumph Tiger. But the modern looks didn't do it for me, and I used to get a bit of a death wobble, which I wasn't happy about. Anyway, I'll come back in a minute. I've got some visitors, so I've gone now. Of all the places to walk, I thought I was going to get some silence. So anyway, so I had the Tracer and I didn't like it. It was a bit vibey. I found the bike very vibey actually, and it used to get a death wobble at certain speeds. Maybe speeds that you're not supposed to hit on the road, but nevertheless it didn't feel very stable. I just didn't get on with it. I didn't like it whatsoever. So I got rid of it after a year, and I traded that in for my beautiful Triumph Thunderbird Storm 1700. I think that bike came in at about 336 kg, which is a very heavy bike for someone who at the time was only 75 kilos. Riding it was easy. It was a dream to ride. But downside is trying to push it backwards. But while I had that, I bought myself for commute, a Triumph Sprint GT 1050. Full luggage. I bought that to commute on because I didn't want to knacker up my Thunderbird. But I only had that bike for, I don't know, a few months maybe. And that bike got stolen, unfortunately, and ditched down the side of the river. So I got it repaired for a friend of mine, but it was never the same. I didn't feel the same about the bike. So I sold the Thunderbird because I had nowhere to leave it, and I was scared it was going to get damaged, stolen. And I just used the Sprint for a little bit, but lost heart. Just didn't feel the same once it had been stolen. So I'm trying to think now. So yeah, so I sold traded in the Thunderbird, and I got a KTM 690 Enduro brand new, and that bike was pretty sweet. I enjoyed it. Back lanes, did a bit of touring on it with a friend of mine, Mick Full Motor. Light, easy to ride. Yeah, great, brilliant on the back lanes. Problem with that bike was very high insurance. I couldn't park it anywhere because I felt it was going to get stolen. Every time I was going into the shop, I'd see a load of youths around it. It just attracted too much heat. And after already having the Sprint stolen, I just didn't feel safe keeping it, to be honest. I just knew if I'd kept it, it would be taken like the Sprint, and what's the point in that? So I sold that and kept the Sprint for a little bit. Then after that, I traded the Sprint in for the Kawasaki Versys. And the Versys, I had that for over 2 years. The Kawasaki Versys 650 GT, so it had full panniers, top box, fog lights, a touring screen, it had my stat nav on it. It had a comfort seat. I think it was by Coburn, or no, it was a Sargent seat. That was it. It had Scott Euler on it. It had everything. I put the SW Motec foot pegs on it. It had SW Motec crash bars on it, engine bars. So it was fully kitted out for touring, commuting. It was a good all-round bike. But the only problem I found with it was low speed handling was a bit off. The front end didn't feel very secure. Like some bikes you can just ride slow and keep it in a straight line. That thing I was like this, any loose gravel or anything, the front end would go on it. What else didn't I like? Motorway speeds. The engine was a bit dreary for me. It would give me a bit of a headache. And it was one of them engines where you have to work it. Well, I personally thought you had to work it all the time to get anything out of it. So after about 2 years of that, I traded that in. And for the bike I've got now, actually, I've got a BMW R1250R. I'm enjoying it at the moment. I will do a full review on it. Will I keep it or not? I don't know. But yeah. So that's what I've had over the last 20 years. What can I say? I like changing bikes. It's an addiction for me. I never seem satisfied. I think because I ride all year round, I find the faults too quick and I get bored too easy. What would I like to buy next? I would like another Thunderbird. I would like another Triumph Thunderbird, but probably the 1600 with the full kit on it. So maybe a touring screen, some panniers, rack on it, so I can go to my rallies. I won't mind one of them. Part of me wants a little scooter, maybe a 300 or 350. Been looking at them recently. And the new Suzuki, is it the new 400 dirt bike? I won't mind one of them. I quite like the Royal Enfield Classic 650. That appeals to me as well. Or do I go back to what I love, and that was the another Triumph Bonneville? So we will see. Only time will tell, eh? Only time will tell if my missus don't kill me for it when she sees me eventually. Anyway, from this dreary, horrible day once again in the UK, thank you for watching, and please subscribe. In fact, while I remember, I want to say thank you for all the responses from my last video on mental health. Do you know what? I was touched. Some beautiful comments on there. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's liked it, everyone who's subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Welcome to Matt's Life, and until the next video, take care of yourself, stay happy, be safe, and bye for now.